You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by Mazda. And like the Red Raiders, Mazda sweats every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning with Mazda. Move and be moved. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again for this Locked On Texas Tech special edition. Wrapping up the week, diving into the Matador Mob mailbag. Your questions, our answers, and the cup runneth over once again this week. Was wondering how we might gauge the temperature of the natives, given the fact that you suffered your first disappointment of the season. The temperature's still hot as far as the mailbag action is concerned. So I was glad to see it. Thank you for all the questions that submitted. So many different things to get to on today's episode. We will get to some assessment and reaction of more fines and monetary justice being doled out by the Big 12 Conference. Are we cool with this scale and how it's sort of being settled as it relates to what Tech was on the receiving end of? Also want to get to what is the most popular topic of conversation this week, and that remains the quarterback situation. Chris, a couple of different angles to it as we anticipate Will Hammond, I'm sure as most of you have seen by now, to be the guy that's letting her go on Saturday against Oklahoma State. So still some component of emergency availability there for Behren Morton, it sounds like. There's questions about what that emergency would actually have to look like. Also questions about sort of the timeline you referenced this week already. Given opponents in this weekend's matchup and some upcoming weeks, could things be different for Behren Morton's availability or being tabbed as a starter if they were rearranged? But we'll start with the guy we expect to see out there Saturday, and Will Hammond. And a lot of folks, Chris, asking about essentially his week 2 now as a starter. Trent, Lonnie, and Keith were asking about any possible insight into Will's preparation or things that have been emphasized as he heads into his second weekend as the Red Raiders starter.
Well, you know, as we have talked about for a couple of years now, this is a young man that's wired the right way. I mean, it's exactly what the way you want to. Typically, quarterbacks are different than other guys on a team just because of their leadership qualities, how smart they need to be, you know, all the things. And Will has all of that. And you know, and Behren obviously is involved, and so he's got plenty of guidance and help and you know, everything like that. And I think you have a very winnable game here. But he's looked really good in practices. I mean, that really wasn't the issue last week either. I think you know, Arizona State obviously had a lot to do with it. Maybe the environment had a lot to do with it. As Reggie Virgil said to the media earlier in the week, hey man, us around him have to be better with our details and, you know, like with our routes and the different things too. Like we can do things that help the situation too. But this is your future. I mean, you're kind of looking at it right now. This is going to be the future starting quarterback here at Texas Tech. And it just so happens he's getting some opportunities to do that right now.
Sounds like to me, going back to some of the things that Joey McGuire and Mac Leftwich talked about earlier this week, it's not as simple as this, I'm sure, but kind of being willing to maybe cut it loose a little bit and take some of those shots that were there down the field that some were asking, you know, if he was sort of limited in what he was able to do, as in play calls or coaching from the sideline, but kind of sounded like there was maybe some opportunities missed, right? Is that the way you interpreted some of what we heard earlier this week?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that you have described that well. I think that they are saying to him, hey, there's a few opportunities there where we would have preferred you make this read or make this throw, give our guy a chance, or you had it and you didn't. This is all part of the learning process. You know, he's still a young player. It's because he took a couple of shots and they were awesome. I mean, the one throw to Coy Aiken was that's an incredible throw. I mean, yes, 1,000%. Yes, exactly. And so it's just, but you know, I think Mac Leftwich says this isn't Will's fault. This is my fault for not coaching him to look for this or be better of giving him enough confidence to make that throw, whatever it may be. So everybody's trying to take ownership of it. But yeah, Will Hammond's the last guy you need to worry about. Will he be prepared? Will he be confident? I mean, all these things. It's a process, and he got dropped in the deep end of the pool last week in a tough environment and tough game against a motivated opponent, and he'll be just fine. I will say the whole thing about the QB deal. I do wonder aloud here if you were tripping to Manhattan, Kansas this weekend, what that would look like. I do, and I don't know if I know the answer to that, but I think there would be a pretty or better than emergency situation only chance that Baron Morton would be back in the starting spot. But I guess in some ways you're fortunate because of the circumstances right now. You are fortunate to give Baron another week, and they just felt like, so he's going to go in cold against Kansas State, because I really do believe if you listen to our show earlier in the week, I really thought that Baron would be back at it this week. As the week progressed, you kind of got the sense that this was going to be Hammond's game, but I think it's with the intention of this is a favorable matchup. We can't assume anything. We can't take anything for granted. With Oklahoma State coming into town, being a 37.5-point favorite, whatever it is. But if we can give our guy another week to really put this behind us instead of chancing another hiccup or whatever, when we really don't need to do that, and again, you would like to think going into Manhattan, if that's the way you have it set up, that you still have Will Hammond in relief duty if needed. So it's just you're trying to manage the situation. You've got the look ahead, you've got the right now, you've got multiple options, you've got an injury that we don't really know, and it's not a foot, it's not an ankle, it's not a knee. I think as we've dictated, it's a calf issue, and I think whether there's a bone issue there or a muscle issue with his calf, but it's never been labeled as a calf strain or anything like that. So. But it's just he needs a little time. But again, it's not season ending. This isn't something that, again, if he was needed to play, he could.
I think as far as Hammond is concerned, I know cut or loose is a little bit too simplistic as to what they probably like to see him do. But I'm just a podcast host who's 70% clad in denim. That's a simple way to just kind of describe the situation, Chris. But I do feel like he's sort of struck me in just the limited time I've seen him as somebody who, really from I guess he needs to get into a rhythm. And so I think Arizona State made that really difficult for him. Not that there's any quarterback that doesn't, quote unquote, need that, but I'd like to see him maybe made a little bit more comfortable earlier and more often. And maybe that'll lead to some better stuff there in those middle 8 or some of those minutes as you get into and out of halftime. I just felt like it was really tough for him to ever, I guess, sort of get in a groove or get some consistency established last time. I think
this is why you see a QB run called early, get him hit. I think he's one of those guys like, okay, as soon as he takes that first, kind of, hit or whatever, then he's kind of, okay, here we go. Now we're in it, So I think there was some intentionality with something like that. But I think that's fair. Again, this is all a process with him. Rare is it that guys, and we've seen the glimpses there to where he does, quote unquote, cut it loose. He'll just stand back there and rip it and play free and confident and make unbelievable throws. But there is a difference in coming off the bench in any situation versus the whole week up, starting and thinking about it and preparing for it. And the other team is doing all these things. There's a clear difference there. So I'm ready for him to get the first one as a starter out of the way, the win.
Yeah.
I should say.
And I think you gave the answers to the next couple of questions from Nick and Joe talking about in Naaman Will the starter. Is this just using another week for Barron to get healthy? Joe asking if we're playing someone we weren't favored by 38 over, would Barron play? Sounds like you said yes to that. So we'll move on to Clint, Lisa, Glenn, and Eddie asking about emergency availability. Chris, what does that scenario actually look like if we were to see that that switch hit? I mean, is this got to be a back against the wall in the fourth quarter kind of deal, or if it's just ugly early or in the second, or what do you think, man? What does that scenario actually look like?
That's a good. I mean, I think last week you only took 3 quarterbacks on the trip, and you only have so many spots you can take players, right? And so I think it would have taken Mitch Griffiths and Will Hammond to not be able to go forward. Like, hey, we're ruling you out. You can't play. Even then, I do wonder if you would have.
First, today's episode brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else. And with a Mazda, you can make everyday drives feel like anything but, with smooth handling and intuitive controls. Plus, with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like the Red Raiders, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved.
Even then, I do wonder if you would have put Barron in there, or would you have just gone Wildcat with Cam Dickey, or so. I just don't know what that looks like, and because there's a health component, but then there's like a situational component too, with like the game. And the result oriented too, like, okay, is this what we need to do to try to get this win? This isn't going like we thought, or something like along those lines. So, yeah. I think that the strong preference though is if you're trying to give him a week and trying to rest an issue here, I think that's what you're intent on doing. I think though, if you can't beat, so situationally, if you can't beat Oklahoma State with Mitch Griffiths or with Will Hammond, I think you got much bigger problems. So, yeah. So I think that him coming in an emergency situation only, as if other guys can't. Now, keep in mind, now that you're at home, you can suit up a variety of people and everything. So you would have more options there, and more than just 3 quarterbacks, obviously. But I'd be willing to bet you that Barron may or may not go through warmups, and then I bet he's not. I bet it's similar to last week. I bet he's not suited up. I bet he's just listening to play calls and helping where he can and all those things, because that's not your intent. And let's just call it what it is. Ideally, Mitch Griffiths is now playing the role of Will Hammond, and I think if you follow the script that we have laid out, our Hollywood writing here, that I'd love to see Mitch Griffiths handing it off to Adam Hill as this thing winds down.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, let's just snap it to Adam. Do we even need to risk another quarterback? Let's just fifth string tight end, whoever we can roll. That's another group we'll circle back to here in just a moment. To sort of wrap up the QB part of the combo, though, Armin did ask about possibly a 30-second break glass in case of emergency Mitch Griffiths scouting report. What would we actually think of him as a QB?
Is this our guy, Armand?
Yeah, it is.
Armin, I should say. Okay. Yeah, the one and only. Yeah. So Mitch is he's not the tallest guy. He's extremely athletic. I think he's a great leader, very mature. He will run around, and he is a scramble to run or scramble to throw guy. I mean, he can absolutely. Whereas I think Will is more of a downhill runner, and like there's a little bit of power, as we've seen the Thunder at the pylon in back-to-back weeks with some of these runs, as he just clears it out. Like, if you're a DB, man, don't get caught on a block with a tech receiver when Will Hammond's coming down the tracks, because you will get runned over. Past tense. But Mitch is I've seen enough, and we've talked about this on the broadcast. Like, if it ever came to him, he could make some things happen. It would be fun to, because he's kind of different than Will and Barron are, in that he's just built a bit different. He's very athletic. I think that, and he's got some moxie now, and he started 7 games for Wake Forest a couple years ago. He's got Power 4 experience, and how quickly could he settle in and all those things. But the last couple of weeks, he's really benefited from getting all the reps that Hammond would have been, because you've prepared for Will Hammond to start these games the last couple of weeks. We just have found out about it further in the week, but come to find out, that's kind of what's happened this week, and it's what happened last week as well. So Mitch is getting, he's getting some practice reps. So, but yeah, shout out to our man Armin too, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Good people right there.
Getting back to a group mentioned a second ago, the tight ends, and Peyton asking about considerations of 10 personnel. If we were talking about running back, no tight end, and sliding a playmaker into the slot because of Terrence Carter. And then, Chris, there's a gang of mobsters just asking about Terrence Carter. Any feel for what he's going through? If he's dinged up or just not available, what do you think about maybe some personnel sets changing a little bit?
Well, I guess it's minor, but it's a good sign. I say minor in this sense that he was listed as doubtful on the initial report and not out. I don't think you'll see him. I think this is. I even think if this game was really important, I just don't know if you would see him. I think you're going to benefit with sitting him out for a week. I think he's just dealing with an ankle issue. He's dealing with a shoulder issue. He's dealing with a variety of things, but the ankle thing is what's going to keep him out of the game here. And in your big personnel, Jason Llewellyn steps in there. Jason Llewellyn was lined out wide last week whenever Will, I think, scored on the 2-point conversion, and it is strictly kind of as a blocker. He's definitely more of a blocker and as opposed to a pass catcher. You may ask John Carlos to catch a few more this week and be targeted a bit more with the tight end. Trey Jackson is your next tight end. He is a younger player that was injured most of last year, but maybe he gets, hey, let's bring him up this week and get him involved a little bit if we don't have TC. I don't know. I don't think you'll get too deep into the weeds there, but that's kind of what it looks like from a tight end standpoint with no TC. But TC, again, like Jacoby, there's just not a natural backup for what they can do and how versatile they can be. You don't really have that other look or other option. You're really leaning into what your other options are at these positions for what they can do, because their skill sets are pretty clear on what they are good and not good at. And TC is just kind of this well-rounded player that can do a variety of things, as is Jacoby. So others are more blocker or younger or, whatever it may be.
Yeah, like close to positionless in some senses, or at least just versatile at a minimum.
Yep.
All right, thank you for that question. Let's talk dollars. Stuart, Lance, and Erica all chiming in on Big 12 justice that we've seen doled out recently, Chris, in the form of fines, as there's been some various perceived alleged misbehavior, not only in the LBK but elsewhere. Some dollars handed out by Arizona State because of their post-game activities, some of it, I guess. Stuart says, did we get jobbed on the Big 12 fine scale? And Lance and Erica are saying they're not fine with the fines. Any comments?
I do think it's fundamentally, it's bizarre that it cost an institution twice as much for an object, a tortilla, a water bottle, or whatever being thrown on the field if they want to claim safety, as opposed to a free-for-all down on the field, 50 to 100. Again, I think that's fundamentally and I know there's this is your first warning. It escalates after that. There's some of that involved here. I am aware, but the optics of that it's a bit bizarre. I still have wondered, are these fines actually paid? Who pays them? Where does the money go? Nobody has offered that up at all. There's no proof of anything. It's like the reprimand, the fine. Again, I don't know. I think that's fascinating. Has any fine by a league or a professional organization or whatever, is there ever been any proof that those payments get made? And again, I've always just been fascinated by where does this money go, and then what is it used for? I don't know.
I've not seen the paperwork. No.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just strange.
Are you saying these don't matter? I feel like
I'm not. I don't want to give off that impression. I just am asking questions aloud. It's like, because this seems to be the one tactic. It's like, we'll just keep popping you financially. And I saw the video like you did with Kirby last week. Like, no, this is serious financial ramifications here. It's not just a $50,000 or $25,000 fine. Now they're going to say it's $100,000 if it's just anywhere in the enclosure, not just the actual field between the white lines and all that stuff. So I'm not saying that it doesn't. It's just everything else seems so transparent. This is not. Again, I'm just asking aloud here. And I just feel like the league has been so transparent with so many things that because it was an unsafe situation at the end of the game. I was on the edge of it. I'm aware of scenarios. I've seen the saint of a cameraman there in Phoenix that stuck a camera in David Bailey's face and then went on his own Facebook page and said, I was just a cameraman, and I asked the gentleman, why are you upset with me taking your picture? And I explained to him, you're the star player. This is why I'm taking your picture. Yeah, save it, dude. This is what his explanation was. Not buying that, sir. I know you may be one of Phoenix's finest, but not really buying that. So you go shove a camera in a player's face after an emotional game, and I mean, what do you think is going to happen? And I'm not condoning like violence or anything like that, but then you got guys running up doing forks up in Lee Hunter's face. This is fundamentally, this is why I just think, and like years ago, you rushed the court in a basketball game, and one of those West Virginia players punched a Texas Tech student that happened to be related to Bubba Jennings at the time. And it's a dangerous situation. I've been on both sides of this. I was a bit nervous at the clock going to zeros the other day? Sure, because you just don't know what's around you, who's going where, what anybody's intention is. Or anything like that, and then it's add that to it's extremely emotional for everybody involved, depending on what side of it you're on, and I think it. And so, but this is only a $50,000 pop, whereas I can throw a water bottle or a tortilla on the field, and it'll net a $100,000 fine. So I think that's a bit bizarre to me.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure after that kid got punched that time, we got in trouble for that one also. Like, no, our guy got hit in the face. I think we already took the punishment. He did sacrificially, and we thank him for his service. Thank you for that question. Malcolm, Ronald, Ben, Todd, and Kent are asking, Chris, who do we root for this week? First, today's episode brought to you by DoorDash, and it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. This week for Texas Tech, it was the outside linebacker David Bailey with 5 tackles, 2 sacks against the Sun Devils. And just like David Bailey delivered for Tech, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays. And with DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. So you can stack it up all season and wind up saving up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep the streak alive. Keep the winning alive by fueling your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promotional period through November 18th. Today's episode brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that help make a large difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table for your business. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. And Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications, working right through an app on your phone or computer. No more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. You'll love their built-in AI agent as well. It's a game changer for answering after-hours calls, capturing leads, and keeping business moving, even when you're off the clock. Whether you're a solo operator juggling everything or part of a larger team, Quo makes it easy to stay responsive and professional. So see why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Do you have any instructions for us on who we need to be pulling for in the Big 12 Conference per helping the Red Raiders?
Iowa State, Houston, and Baylor. Those are easy ones. Yeah, any of those three. I know. I mean, but this, when you lose a game, this is where you're at. But these are the three teams that it all directly benefits you if any one of those. And heck, man, if all three want to win, the standings would look much different. The one that I'm not sure what my thoughts are. This is a game of, I guess, pick your poison, or I don't know. Does it even matter? But the Kansas State game, I'm kind of fascinated by. I don't really, as it relates to the standings, not going to matter in a way. But you're going to see this Kansas State team next week, and do you want them? Because if they lose, which I'm leaning toward this, if they lose this game to Kansas, they are theoretically out. There's really no hope in the league standings. That you may even already think that they're out, but they are officially like eliminated. There's just way too much, and I think that it could be a less than environment there if they were to lose, just because I think people have been, questioning everything up there and all that stuff. But if they win, they're still in it. So I think maybe I've talked myself into rooting for the Jayhawks. I guess is what I'm in the accusatory Lance Leipold. As we go to the weekend in the Sunflower Showdown or whatever they call it. So, but those are the four games that I'm paying attention to, and so I guess you're rooting for Iowa State, Houston, Baylor, and Kansas. And I know it feels dirty. I get it, but I'm worried about the double T, man. That's where you're at. That's where it comes from a good place.
Big Leipold guy. Big Leipold guy. Fair enough. Yeah. Thank you for that answer. This was a popular subject this week. Just to swing it back around to something that we touched on a little bit earlier when it comes to offensively, some high hopes. Ben, Sam, Scott, Glenn, Amy, Tyree, and Jonathan asking basically, why do we think the passing game has gone flat? And can you explain sort of maybe why some of those guys have been non-factors that were big factors at different points earlier in the year?
Well, some of this has been the way that you've been played. I think Houston, Kansas, and Arizona State have been intentional about let's keep it in front of us. Let's be a bend but don't break outfit, whereas Utah was like, there was a level of arrogance there. Like, this is what we do, man. We're going to be aggressive. We're playing man to man. And this is our calling card. Like, we're not changing. And it didn't work for them. If you're these other schools, you see that and go, okay, maybe we ought to. And so we had touched on, you've been good enough in some instances to punish another team this way if this is what they're going to give to you, because you can't defend everything. And ideally, you want to build an offense where you can attack whatever they're willing to give you or whatever weakness is there. Sometimes you're just not good enough to exploit it. I think at different times this year, you certainly have been. I think large in part, Arizona State, there were some opportunities there, but I also think that what they did a better job of is there was no yards after the catch or contact after the catch or yards after contact, whatever phrase you're looking for there. There just wasn't anything to speak of. Credit them, say it's you, blame it on the natural grass surface. I don't know, and I think that kind of alters some of the dynamic too as it relates to some of the passing plays. And you did throw it down the field a couple of times last week where you just really didn't have any chance of it being completed. Like your guy is in a man-to-man situation and the ball is thrown out of bounds, or you get run out of bounds, or it just really didn't have much of a chance to succeed. So I think there's a variety of things that come to that. I will say it appears that one of Oklahoma State's starting corners is out. I think we agree that you want to get back to running the ball, and I think you want to do these things. I think that you could see them really try to exploit some of the weaknesses that Oklahoma State has in their secondary this week, because I think they could play whatever, keep it in front of them, man to man, whatever, and I think you will be able to have some success. And I think that you want to get those guys on the outside going again, and not that they've not been going. You had a couple of touchdown receptions last week, but I think you'll maybe see some more down the field activity here on Saturday.
Scott is saying it seems we get hurt by opposing tight ends sneaking out the backside. Is the defense getting schemed into mismatches, or are these maybe recurring busted assignments?
Well, there's some of that. I think that this is like that old Midwest style of football where everybody utilizes 2 and 3 tight ends, like the Kansas State, Iowa State, kind of that whole family of multiple shifts. It's smoke and mirrors. This is what gives them an advantage. They don't have the explosive athletes like some of the schools do, certainly not like you do. So they scheme you up. They try to play big boy Midwestern style of football, and I think that there's been some of those things that have hurt you, but it hadn't broken your back. It had Matador, the kid from Arizona State. He's just a good player. He's not a great blocker, but he's a good pass catcher, and he's an outlet for them. He's a safety valve for Sam Leavitt. Which we were talking about the Arizona State-Houston game a while ago. It's an interesting scenario because Jordan Tyson not playing in this game versus Houston. I think Houston's got this, I think I've termed it this empty calorie kind of record so far, but you have to credit them. They've figured out ways to win the game, and I don't know. I mean, a lot of pressure on Arizona State there to hold serve and coming off the emotional game, and, Willie Fritz will have, and that's pretty good defense. And with no Jordan Tyson that you have to worry about, speaking of tight ends getting leaked out, Matador would be the top target for a guy like Sam Leavitt this particular week. So just keep an eye on that. It's just funny how the tight end has made a comeback. They are the most versatile players on offense, and if you don't have a good one, you're kind of screwed. And everybody in the Big 12, I mean, look at what Cincinnati's doing. I mean, Joe Royer is going to be an NFL guy. He's probably the best tight end in the Big 12. They have leaned on him heavily. I mean, he's just physically, it's like you look at him, it's like, this is what it's supposed to look like. And they lean on him, and he does a variety of things. But you just look at a lot of these offenses that cause problems, and the pass catching, the versatile tight end, it causes a problem. So part of that is you just can't cover everything. And I think, you've been beating on a little bit of that some.
Within some of our football hearts, the tight end never left.
True.
Was always with us in spirit.
Yeah.
But it's been a little while since maybe he was there actually on the field. Okay, thank you for that question. This question here, sticking with the pass catcher, Chase and Kevin asking about Micah Hudson. Where are you at? And it sort of goes along with the question that Hayden had to offer up about why do we feel like at this point, and I know we touched on this a couple of weeks ago, but again, at this point, we're seeing, I guess, such a shallow or very little bit of a rotation utilized among the wide receivers.
Well, again, he's a young player. He had an injury a month ago. I think he's fine now. You're seeing him with some of the kickoff returns and different things being sprinkled in. They have been very intentional in some of these games about not wholesale changes when they put the backups in. And so in the normal flow of these games, which you've been in the normal flow of I mean, you won by 24 in Houston and in Utah, but you really never felt like, okay, empty the bench, we're good. I mean, these were stressful games to a certain extent up until the last couple of series, I guess, where you just don't want to mess with anything. But they've been intentional with every position group of like leaving some starters out and then mixing in a backup guy. So that's also part of it too, is they felt like this was a Joey thing from back in August. I felt like we have screwed up a variety of things by just saying, hey, all the twos at receiver go in. Well, Joey feels like we have screwed up their ability to succeed because they have a better opportunity to succeed if one of the backups is mixed in with the starters, and vice versa, and the way it goes. So that's part of why it is. And then again, he's a redshirt freshman. I mean, it's but I kind of was wondering, Leighton Stone, Bryson Jones, TJ West, Kelby Volson, but it just is also the thing is, like, you've been using your tight ends, and do you really want Caleb and Reggie and Coy sitting over there next to you at any given time? Is there are they that tired? Are we running that many plays in these games? Because some of this isn't the game has changed in that you're not running 100 plays on offense anymore. I mean, that's been the way the clock is, so yeah, I mean, if I'm going to ask my dudes to run the 70 to 75 plays, then that's so some of that factors into it as well.
Yeah, and then you're talking about two running backs who statistically have been your most impactful offensive weapons. So makes sense maybe why it's been a little bit more shallow this time around. CJ is asking about this. It's Graham Harrell weekend at Jones Stadium. Chris, do you have a favorite you cannot use November 1st, 2008? Do you have a favorite November 1st, 2008 Graham Harrell memory?
Yeah, this would have been the one at A&M in 06 when you'd gotten beat in Fort Worth. I think you'd gotten beat in. I'm trying to remember if there was another loss that preseason, and so but you go to A&M and he drops just a dime. Shannon Woods with an incredible blitz pickup, and Graham just throws an unbelievable pass to Robert Johnson, which was crazy in his own right because this was the big time junior college quarterback that was going to come in and change the world and everything. And, there was all these rumored, man, I heard that Robert and Cumbie got in a fight in the weight room and all these different things. Well, then they move him to receiver. And, these days you wonder if that would have even have happened. But Robert Johnson goes into the locker room and he's like, he's got this accent, this Southern accent and everything. He's like, man, Graham Harrell like Tom Brady, man. He like Tom Brady. He just threw, whatever. And I never forgot that one. That's an easy one though. But Graham, the two things that I think that separated him from I think he's the best quarterback that's ever played here. Okay. That's what I think. And I think that there's a lot of numbers and a lot of opinions that would back that up. I don't care. I mean, and again, it's a high standard. I mean, BJ, Cliff, Pat, Seth, Potts, and all the guys. There's a lot of records and big numbers and all the things. I just think he was the best. You won the most, but his numbers were the best, and he was the most accurate. That's what people probably don't. Not the biggest dude, not the biggest arm, but it is supremely accurate and to the point where he could in warm-ups, hit a guy in a white jumpsuit warming up down there at A&M and kind of like a Varsity Blues type moment, like oops, like a Jonathan Moxon deal, and then go, oh man, I just not really feeling it. No, I mean he's feeling it. He knew what he was doing. But then he had this competitive, like he did. He double birded the Jones crowd after 3 interceptions against Missouri. But he was wired to the chip on the shoulder never left. And I think that's what motivated him, drove him, and made him one of the great. Because you just can't tell the story of college football, in my opinion, which is why he's going in the Hall of Fame, or Texas Tech football without mentioning him in a very short or leading the conversation off with quarterback play here.
I like the theme of your answer, and we didn't plan our answers on this, but I was just going to sort of say the general disdain he had for Texas Agricultural and Mechanical University is what I appreciated the most. And he worked it out in physical form several times in College Station. in Lubbock. I remember at one point he's like, I've embarrassed everybody in an Aggie football uniform. And then he went and took on like the trombone section. Then he took on the soldier section. He's giving away the business down there on the back end line. I just appreciated that about him always. He really felt it. And I don't have it in front of me, but I don't think he would have ever lost to him, would he?
I know he did not. And here's the other funny thing is, or it's not funny, but what I've always admired, and some of these guys are like this. Lincoln Riley's like this. There's some coaches and things like that. But as a player, I learned pretty quickly that Graham's recall was next level. I even think like right now, if you have a conversation with him and you say, hey, man, in your mind, pull up that Oklahoma State game after the Texas game. It was 3rd and 8 in the third quarter. There's 3:12 left to go. And he could probably tell you the play call, the read that he had, exactly what they did on. I mean, it's like crazy. Like it's like that Oz the Mentalist dude. It's just like it's like demon-esque. It like blows my mind when I see these things. I'm like, this can't be real. And I think that there's been times years ago where you'd ask him stuff, and I'd go back and look it up. And be like, okay, is he? And it was exactly as he said, And not that I didn't. I just had maybe like forgotten the detail that he had mentioned, and I'm like, I'll be damned, he had it. I mean, so. That was also, or it continues to be very fascinating to me. Thrilled that he's getting his flowers this weekend. 1,000% deserved. His name belongs. I often said if you were putting Crabtree up there, Graham should have gone up there at the exact same time or even ahead of Crabtree. People think that's sacrilege. There's been many a good receiver that has come through college football that don't win awards or don't go do this or don't do that because they didn't have the guy that could get them the ball and showcase them. And Michael Crabtree is fortunate enough to have had one of the best that's ever do it, put him on and Crabtree deserves his attention and flowers too. But I'm just not sure that Michael Crabtree is who he was without number 6.
Thank you for that question. This question here from Matt and Trent. Switching gears as we're looking to the future, asking about James Blanchard, mentioning a couple times targeting potential 2026 flips. In that instance, particularly those with stock arrows pointing up or players not getting perceived market value with current offers. So they're asking, Chris, whether it's maybe current locations or positions or maybe even names. Are there things we should be keeping top of mind as we look to the future? But to hear that answer, you'll need to be a Matador Mob insider. So hit our show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial. For those on the outside, this is where we leave you. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you don't miss a thing. And become a Matador Mobster today for less than a cup of coffee a month so you can get the full Mailbag experience. Next week, we wish a great weekend to everyone. It's a family kind of weekend in the LBK, so it should be a great time at Jones Stadium. Chris, appreciate your time all week long within regulation. We're now out of bounds, going to the OT next, man. Looking forward to it.
Talk to you on the other side. Hopefully everybody enjoys a stress-free weekend and keep hope alive. We'll talk to you next time unless we keep talking to you right now.
That's right. Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss a thing. Thank you to the everydayers for always riding along. Enjoy the ball game this weekend. Enjoy the Jones if you are in town. For Chris, I'm Casey. And as always, we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.